Well, obviously pretty devastated today. Sunday afternoon, sitting in the office thinking about what happened, and probably very similar to what the fans are feeling. And I know, Dean, the players we're all feeling the same. It's never great to be, the way the game went yesterday, especially was a real kick in the what have us, and I think the reaction was actually quite positive to the situation we found ourselves in the end, but the reaction was subdued because of the performance and the way the lads had to go and really went down fighting, and then to concede a goal like that. And I think and we'll talk a little bit more about hindsight, but in hindsight, Ash going up top and leaving us a bit more exposed, and a draw would have been enough. But you don't know that, and you don't know if Rochdale would have scored a last minute goal or whichever. So we had to go for it. We went. Dean went for it at Bury, and Ash scores the winner, and we'd have come away with that if we'd have got a winner at the end there. But just very disappointing. Just frustration, just disappointment, etc. etc. Yeah, I think we are, and I think we have to be careful that we're realistic in this position, but we're also the integrity of the game on Saturday and everything else is important as well. So I think even in these conversations we're going to interchange relegation or almost relegated and all that kind of stuff. So I don't necessarily want to get bogged down with that. It's more important about being realistic, and if we do go down, or it's not necessarily the semantics of what we actually say, but it's more about a reaction of what happened yesterday and on Saturday at Walsall, and then and a little bit of a review of the season, and we go into Saturday's game with the right attitude, that it's a game that we need to win no matter what happens. I think the reaction to our fans have been fantastic. The atmosphere yesterday at the game, and both sets of supporters was phenomenal, and the support shown last week, and with Dean's comments, and off the back of Dean's comments, and off the back of the performances of the players in the last couple of games has been immense. And I have to say thanks to the fans. The response to me personally has been fantastic and positive, and it's always going to be. There's always a lot of frustration that spills out immediately after that sort of game and that sort of result, and there'll be some that are obviously angry, and as we are. But overall, the majority of the amount of people have contacted me and sent me some notes on social media, etc., just to say thanks, and behind it, and support the club, and no matter what, and cobblers till they die. So that's been great, and I can only say thank you to that. And I think as a club we can only say thank you to the fans for coming out and supporting the team the way you did, and at Walsall. I think frustration is one of the biggest emotions. Frustration, maybe a bit of anger, or a lot of anger at times. Disappointment. It's a position I don't think we should be in, and I take responsibility for that. The buck stops with me. That's a reality. I think we've made decisions as a club in the best interest of the club. We've made decent decisions that haven't worked out as well as we would have liked. At times we've maybe been distracted with partnership and takeover and etc. But I think you look at it, and 5 East Ball came in, and I don't think we would have known that things would have changed for them dramatically like they did. And I think it was a positive move to bring them in, and I still think it was a positive move, and there was nothing wrong with that decision, as it were. But the way it panned out and the way things changed for them, and we couldn't go forward in the way that we would have all hoped, was a distraction, and it changed our thought process, and subconsciously may have changed a little bit about the way we were, or the way we are as a football club, so but again, take responsibility for that. And we made the change at that time with Justin and Jimmy, and again, Jimmy was a very popular decision, and was seen as a bit of a coup, and that didn't work out like we planned, and I'm sure like Jimmy planned either. I think I think we were coming away from, I think it was February, middle of February, February 10th maybe. We came away from Wimbledon, beating them 3-1. And if you'd have said to me at that time we'd have been in this position, I would have been very surprised. I think we needed 5 wins out of 14, and even later, I think we needed 10 points out of 10 games or something like that. And obviously hindsight's the easiest thing to run a football club with, and you live and die by your decisions, but not just necessarily the decisions. You live and die by the outcome, and we accept that we made a decision with the management, and it didn't work out the way we would have liked, and it's been incredibly disappointing. And and you could say, I'll look back, and I have looked back. I've looked at the games again, and a few times with a few different people, and you look back and say, could I have done it? Something changed, made a change a bit sooner, etc. And you look at the games, and you come off of Wimbledon, where we were looking good, looking strong. We'd come up, I think, 3 or 4 wins out of 6 or 7 games, and John Joe was Player of the Month, and all looking good. And then, even then, you go, I think we lost the next game, but then we came back with a couple of good draws, and I think we played well against Blackburn and drew, and played very well against Oxford, and drew, and could have easily won that game. And then you lose one, I think, to Rotherham, and that was a poor loss. But then you bounce back with Shrewsbury, and I think everyone at Shrewsbury was buzzing after the Shrewsbury game. But then we followed it up with I think 4 straight defeats, and that's when we decided to make that change. And again, hindsight's wonderful, and we'd have made a lot of different decisions, I think. But they were all decisions made in the best interests. They were just decisions that were made at the time with the facts in front of us. So they didn't work out like we would have liked, and it's been a disappointment, and it will be a disappointment if we do end up getting relegated after Saturday. But but I do take responsibility for those. Yeah, we've obviously internally had some discussions. It's still very raw right now, and those discussions need to be padded out a little bit and completed. But initially we're looking at a budget that will be higher than the Championship year a couple of years ago. And we've got that experience, and that's good to know that we've got that experience. We came in, and again, when you go through this raw emotion period, and etc., and it's anger and disappointment are the main emotions. People forget what's happened in the last couple of years, and and the picture sometimes gets tainted, and people almost seem to, some people have made some comments that almost seem to forget that we were part of that, and we were influential in that. And we made quite a few changes in January in that year with Chris, and we invested money in that January. And if you looked at the team that started the season and the team that finished the season, I think there were quite a few changes in there, and where we'd invested in that. So we know what League Two is about, and we know what sort of levels we need to be at. I think we need to sit down and work out. Contractually, contracts will reduce, so there will be a natural reduction in this year's budget. But we will definitely have what we would consider a competitive budget in League Two, and we'll be looking to we're competitive people, so we'll be looking to bounce back and win football matches. Yeah, no, again, James does a good job contractually and with players to ensure that we protect ourselves in these situations. There's obviously bonuses if we get promoted, and there's reductions if we get relegated, and so it's not the ridiculous impact that it could be if you get relegated and you don't have those clauses in the contract. So players are obviously going to be disappointed themselves, and there'll be some movement of players. We do think, I've always taken the view that a chairman should allow a manager to work and operate, and that won't change necessarily. I think we had success with Chris. I've always had success with Chris and other managers with that view, and we need to figure out a competitive budget, and players. So there will, is there movement in players? I'm sure there will be, and we need to ensure that we put a squad together. And the biggest thing that we talked about, and I talked about it with Jimmy, and I talked about it with Chris and all the managers really, and it's just about characters. We've got to get characters on the pitch. We've got to get leaders on the pitch, and we've got a good squad. The basis of a really good squad there to go down if we do go down into League Two, and I think we've got a good basis of the squad, a good age. We've got some exciting younger players, and there's definitely some excitement around the youth team and the academy and the younger players and other areas of the club. So, there's definitely things to look forward to. But we've got to we've got to prove that now. It's not just a case of saying that. We've got to prove that next year, and we lick our wounds necessarily of what we're experiencing right now and the raw emotion of it right now, and we move forward into. Once the season's over and there's a little bit of a break and we move into pre-season and start make sure that team and squad's in place. Well, in the real short term, we've got a game on Saturday, and we've got to try and win that game. We've got to finish as strongly as we can. So. Immediate short terms, and then the reality is the main discussion is going to be around the manager and that position and what we do there. I think Dean, in fairness to Dean, I think he's equipped himself very well. I've got an agreement with him, and he's got an agreement with me. We wouldn't talk about it until the end of the season, which is after the weekend, and we wouldn't talk about it. I wouldn't talk to other people and etc. So I'm going to stick to that. But I think Dean's done an excellent job in galvanising the squad again and maybe connecting the squad back to the fans, and I think some of the subdued reaction to the potential relegation yesterday, or almost relegation yesterday, was the fact that people could see that Dean and the players were giving their all, and that was important, and so I think he's done. And again, I've had a lot of comments from people. Give it to Dean. He's deserved his chance. And it's good to been able to see him close up in the way that he's talked and the way that he's dealt with, which is a very difficult situation. But we're not going to, we're going to rush into it, and we're going to sit and talk and amongst ourselves and try and come up with the right decision. Yeah, and then in the medium term or medium term, it's really getting. I know you're going to ask me about it, and we'll talk about it. We'll touch on it a bit more. Is the East Stand obviously, and but on the pitch, it's about being as competitive as we can next year, and ensuring that we're winning football matches and we're challenging for promotion next year, and really giving it a go. And longer term, that remains the same. We're looking to compete at the highest level possible, and we've always said whether that takes further investment or not. That will be decided as we go along. But those are the very general sort of goals. Well, to be honest, that East Stand is probably, is almost up there with the frustration of being in a relegation position. For me and for us, David and Mike, and the criticism that we sometimes get on that East Stand is just plain wrong. It's as though like we're responsible for that, and when we're just not. And I think we'll talk about this more and more over the next sort of months, and we'll be able to come out. It's not something that I've necessarily wanted to push publicly, in the sense of because of the season, being in season, and trying to keep stability, etc. But it's something that I've taken personal criticism for, and it's very frustrating because it's not right, and it's something I will come out pretty strongly about. We feel quite strongly that we've been treated very harshly by the council, and I'm happy to say that publicly, because what we will be able to say is backed up by fact. We've now shown the trust, that the lack of communication from the council. I know the trust are trying to get something out of the council for their side, which is fine. We're very open. But the reality is we've been trying to communicate, and our lawyers, but we've hit a brick wall. And whether that's personal, we don't know. We are dealing with a council that, let's not forget, that's just spent, that prior to us lent the football club or the owners of the football club a lot of money, and have now spent almost 10% of that money, almost over £1 million, in trying to recover that money, and have recovered nothing. So it's, and then we sit here and all we, people say to us sometimes that you just try, it's just a land grab. We control all the land. We don't. That's not the issue. And it's been agreed that the council need to regulise these leases for us to move forward. We've got written confirmation of this. We've got emails and we've had conversations about this. So it's actually us, myself and David, technically as owners of CDNL, giving the football club land back. It's not about that, but I don't want to get away from it. And it does get me frustrated because we do take criticism for it, and it's unfair because it's just not the case. So and I invite the council to say anything different. But anyway, that we will continue to work hard on that. We found a lot more issues with that East Stand situation than we ever thought we were going to find after takeover, and we've just worked behind the scenes. We've just worked quietly to try and resolve it, and hard to try and resolve it. And everyone in this building knows what we've been trying to do in the background and the effort, and but we've come up against almost an immovable force at times, in terms of lack of communication, a lack of information coming back to us, and I think there was quite a public email that I sent to Jonathan and councillors back in maybe September, and I still haven't had a response from that. And so if Jonathan can say anything different, then fantastic. If Francis Fernandez, the lawyer there, can actually say that they've contacted us since December from the legal perspective, then fantastic. Tell us and show us, because we must have missed it. So anyway, but I've gone on a bit of a rant about that because there is a frustration there. But we're in the same position. We're waiting for that confirmation to come back to us. I think one of the things we have to kind of sit back, and the reflection I've done today a lot of the time has been about, we've been pretty rubbish on the pitch. There's no, and that's what everyone sees, and we have, and no one can stand up and say that we've performed to our potential on the pitch, and I accept responsibility for that, and I know the managers will, and I know the players have to take some responsibility as well. But when this happens, when you do get relegated, what you see is people use it as an opportunity to bash the club a little bit, and use it as an opportunity to get out their own frustrations, and maybe in their life, or maybe just at the club in general. And everyone talks about, people people might even say the club's in turmoil, or whatever. That to me, that's just not the case. That's rubbish. The club isn't in turmoil. You look at the stuff that's going on in the football club in the background, and I also think when people say that, it's actually quite insulting to the people like yourself, Gareth, and anyone that works here at this football club, because everyone here is affected by this situation as well, and this relegation as well, and they're working hard, and they're coming in every day and working hard and trying to take things forward, and are successful in that. Commercial revenues are above budget, even in such a poor year on the pitch, which has to be commended. The academy is going from strength to strength. The education side of things, the BTECs, the numbers are increasing. You've got Muzzy going around with his trophies, for Supporter of the Year. You've got this disability group. You've got the youth team winning the they should be winning their league. You've got the women's team that are in the cup final. All of these things are happening behind the scenes, and the community work that goes on there. And on top of that, you look at what last week's announcement with the Football League and the announcement of the Family Excellence Award, and these things aren't easy to get. This isn't, you look at the match day experience, and bear in mind that's a match day experience typically where the match itself hasn't been very good. So I think overall, we're not a club going down in turmoil. We're a club that's had a very bad season on the pitch, and again, we take responsibility for that as a club, as myself and as a board. We do take responsibility for that, and we have to change that, and we have to look at that and look at ways to improve that, and etc. But it is a tough league, and but we should have done better, and that's something we have to learn from. But we're not going to get we're not going to get down on the fact that the club's in a mess. It's not. The club is fine. The club is stable. And, you know, I get a lot of comments about how the club's being run, you know, in general, and you know, the volunteers that we have on a match day, on an off a match. You know, these are the sort of things that make a football club like this, and we have to be proud of that. And we just have to get the bit that probably one of the bit that everyone sees, and the important part, because people want 3 points, people want to win football matches, and so do we as a club, and we've got to get back to that. And we have to remember, you know, 2 years ago, yes, we were all enjoying a much better end of the season, you know, and you know, but 4 years ago, it was also a club that was you know, 40 minutes away from going out the Football League, and so. There has been worse times and there will be better times, but we have to accept what's happened. We have to be disappointed, we have to be angry, we have to emotional about that, but then we have to then look at the bigger picture and say, okay, we need to change this, we need to change that, we need to improve here, and we need to win football matches so that it can put smiles on people's faces. So we're a decent club, we're a good club, and underneath, and we just need to make sure that gets transferred onto the football pitch.